Welcome to the Polias podcast, Renewing the City, where we discuss all things dreaming, planning, and commercial real estate right here in Athens, Georgia. I'm your host, Paul Taylor Smith. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Well, okay, so why do we want to talk about renewing the city? I have a thought about it. Do you have a thought about it?
I'd love to hear your thought,
Okay.
David.
I love our talks at our Polias office. We're standing around the conference table, and you and Rob and me, we just really bring a lot of passion to what we should do and how we go about doing it. We're bringing our creativity and our perspective, and it becomes very passionate.
Yeah.
And I really think that the end result of the product that we get is a byproduct of those conversations.
Oh, yeah.
And I think there's been some curiosity about the conversations that we have and how that turns into what we end up doing. And I know for a fact that you guys have had me reconsider things in a way that I've been so grateful that we did. So I feel like the podcast is a look behind the curtain at kind of like, what are the conversations that we have as we passionately try to bring renewal to the city we love.
You're being nice about that. Passionate. It's like a wrestling match in the Polias office, but you always come out on top. Now, I love it because it is like something I love about the way that you lead in these conversations too, is like you bring your heart to the table and you're always ready with open hands to change your mind if it's needing to change. And so I think, Rob and I and the rest of the team are grateful for that. But these wrestling matches in these conversations do create a greater outcome without a doubt.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we have them.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, I some people may find it interesting, some may not. To me, it's very interesting.
super.
Because we're talking about balancing a lot of different things, right? It's kind of this intersection of purpose and profit, like we talk about a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes it's got to be profitable, sounds like a wet blanket on something that we're all passionately about, talking about or debating. But at the end of the day, I think when you can finally find some common ground and thread that needle, you end up with a project that's much, much better than had you just been designing it for profitability.
Absolutely. Yeah, but if you design it, devoid of profit, then it can't sustain itself.
Right.
I love the thought of not doing anything out of benevolence, but doing something that's profitable, but without purpose, the profitable project can just be lifeless. And sometimes you go out in pursuit of something that you think is great for the community, but then you just get sidetracked by this or that pursuit. And it leaves you going like, how did we end up here?
Yeah.
And so you gotta backtrack to step one. And I've seen you on more accounts than one ball up a set of plans that you've spent a lot of time and money on and gone, we're not staying true to ourselves. We got to go back to the drawing board. And when in my heart, it's like, I'm so frustrated because, that's time and money that's lost. I'm also like, man, he's making the right call. We got to go back.
Yeah. So I think renewing the city is going to be a series of conversations about the tools in the toolbox for creating renewal in our community. Other people could listen to it and glean things that would be helpful in renewing their community. But at the end of the day, I think we all are aspiring to hopefully motivate people to think about things from a little bit bigger perspective in ways that might be beneficial to the community that can still be profitable.
Yeah.
It's funny. I tell people sometimes I feel so grateful for Polias. The things that I did in my development career before were, I'm very proud of the projects that I put on the ground and the teams that we built and the things that we did. But having a purpose at Polias that I didn't necessarily have with the last venture, it helps me spring out of bed in the morning.
Absolutely.
And I think it's like a wind in your sails too.
It's the reason I came to work with you. I mean, it just is. I wasn't interested until you thoroughly communicated the purpose. Why Polias exists. And I was like, all right, if that's what we're doing, I'm in.
Yeah.
So that's.
Well, I remember, I remember early conversations with Rob, and you had to have this sort of requisite meeting where you sit down and you talk about what the website's going to look like and what the content of the website is.
Boring.
And I'm like your typical, entrepreneur, like, oh my Lord, please tell me what I'm going to have to articulate what our values are.
You better get your LinkedIn profile straightened out, Dave.
Yeah. But it's funny because as the purpose of what we were going to do was rolling around in my head, that was a forced conversation to put some values to paper. Yeah. And I know we haven't fully developed a mission statement in the ways that we want to, but we did articulate 3 things, and I mean, you talk about them a lot.
I love those 3 things. Yeah. I love them very much because they inform everything that we do. And I think you're going to talk in a minute about a way and a few ways recently that's hit you really hard right between the eyes. But value number 1 is stewardship over ownership. We don't believe that we own anything, so our fists aren't clenched tightly around these properties or projects. We actually hold them with an open hand because we're stewarding them. We're essentially, it's just passing through our hands because last time I checked, I'm not going to live forever on this earth and neither are you. So somebody else is going to steward this property after we do.
Right. And someone did before us.
Somebody did before us. Right. Yeah, I know. We can't forget about that. Right. We always say at Polias, we're building on a legacy, which is beautiful. Yeah. Value number 2 is transformation over transaction. That one is so hard sometimes, right? Because we've seen how easy it can be to just have a transactional moment where we could maybe even make a good clip of money, but it leaves something just kind of battered and maybe even a little more broken than we started.
And I'll tell you, it also fosters short-term thinking. Yeah. Whenever you have transactional mindset, how can I harvest a profit and maximize that profit?
Right.
There's no way that enhances long-term thinking. Right. It almost always reinforces short-term thinking, which is opposite of how we're really trying to think about the long view and think generationally at Polias more than we are. So that's another part of that.
Yeah, that's real legacy, right? Long-term, long view. And it's hard sometimes in the moment because if you try to carpe diem, you're like, why do I want to think about 100 years from now if I can, make a buck now? But that's why our values say what they say is they're the checkpoint, they're the anchor or the Bill of Rights that we look at to be reminded of what we really care about most. Right. I heard
the third point.
Yeah, the third point is community over competition. Right. Which is key. That's why we try to make friendships, relationships, and honor other amazing people in the community that are doing things thoughtfully and
rooting for them to succeed.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, I hope that every adjacent property owner to any of our properties succeeds with flying colors. You say this all the time, but with the rising tide, all ships will rise. And I hope that in the city of Athens and Watkinsville and Oconee and surrounding areas that this unmistakable tide just keeps rising and all ships rise with it. Right. And so,
well, we're on episode 3 and we haven't really explained that we're calling it Renewing the City and this is why. But I think it comes down to a real passion for our town. And we want to be catalytic in doing things about renewing our city. And we hope and we think that these conversations about how you thread that needle between purpose and profit, how you balance that is going to be interesting to a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons.
I love that. Yeah. And we're going to keep talking about those things. Tell me what happened yesterday when all of this kind of came to a head. We were in like a 8-hour meeting with a group of amazing architects. And there came a point when something kind of catalytic happens.
Yeah. About that. Well, I think that's, a great example of what I think this podcast is going to be about. There's going to be things that we come in here and things are top of mind because they just happened. And nothing could be more clear to me than what happened yesterday in terms of balancing purpose and profit. We had these architects in town. We're doing what's called a charrette.
Explain what that means. Most people don't know.
So we have a parcel of land. We're going to call it Butler's Grove. It's in Oconee County across from the Publix. We get these drawings out and we start on scratch paper.
Dancing.
We dance. What if a building's here? What if a building's there? What if it's a grocery store? What if it's a hardware store? What about a restaurant over here? Yeah. And, when you start with a blank sheet of paper, there's infinite permutations. But as you start putting things together and building blocks and drawing what the project might look like, you start going one direction or another. And it forces decisions to be made, right? And one of the drawings that were starting to come out of this was you could see kind of the wind coming out of the sails of the architect.
Well, we had seen this beautiful, amazing, compelling drawing. They were kind of calling the yellow brick road drawing, and we were all like, "Oh my gosh!" But what about we need to include this? And then when we said we need to include this, it just started and
right. I think there was this beautiful concept of this village of retail with lots of bespoke small little buildings and things that maybe users could use, maybe they couldn't, but it looked beautiful. And then it's like, well, what about a big box grocery over here or a big hardware store over there? And you could see the life just sort of melting away from the architect's
Well, because it started shaping everything.
Yeah, and it was sort of
you can't do this, can't park that.
And I remember in my mind's eye as he started directing that plan towards what I would call more of a conventional plan.
That's right.
It just started looking like a regular power center, right?
Correct.
There's an anchor here, an out parcel here, and here. I noticed inside of me comfort coming onto me because I knew it looked familiar and profitable, right?
Sure.
I knew, okay.
Predictable.
Predictable. Yes, predictable. I knew tenants would lease it. I knew it could be built at a reasonable cost. I knew it would be profitable. And I looked across the table at you and you're giving me the look like, okay, are we really going to do what we say we're going to do? And, that really stuck with me, because you said something about, well, is this what the community would want? Woo! And it was a very sobering moment for a minute. And
well, I can't take the credit. I looked at the architect and he looked like a deflating balloon. And I went, if he's not excited about this, we shouldn't be either. We got to stay true to who we are.
But it was interesting because part of the yin and yang and the push and pull was about trying to get a grocery store in the program, which in many configurations would look very typical and conventional and could be profitable. The village looked beautiful and inspiring. But you reminded me that, we put a QR code up and hundreds of people responded saying they needed a grocery store.
That's right.
So it just, as we kind of prepared to come in here and talk about this today, I was thinking about balancing purpose and profit is not twice as hard. It's exponentially harder, right? To thread that needle. So we put the requirement on the architect. How could you deliver a grocery store and a village and make it, beautiful and walkable and safe for kids? And like we had this whole list of things that it had to accomplish for the community. And he said something like, oh, so you want everything, and we're like, yeah, we do.
Yes, we do. And we want to eat our cake too. Thank you very much.
We do. And so anyway, that's the heart of what every conversation that we have is. And seriously, we get to dead ends sometimes where you do roll up the plans and throw them in the trash, right? Because you've thought about it so many times and you still can't get to that magic balance. And sometimes the best thing to do is throw the plans away. And we've done it.
Oh my gosh.
And so I hope, or I aspire that this podcast will be lots of conversations about examples like that. Where we take the values, where we're rooting for community and our neighbors to succeed and transforming things and stewardship. And we can say that those are non-negotiables. But we have to have a beautiful, profitable project too. And how do we get there? And I don't know. I hope some people will find it interesting.
I just hope that as we continue seeing this fork in the road and you see this little bit wider, more comfortable, predictable road, and then you see this more narrow, risky, maybe unpredictable road, but knowing that at the end of that road is something beautiful and compelling, I hope that we can continually take the narrow road and that we can encourage others to do the same. And in future episodes, we're going to help define those values and where they came from. We're going to talk about beauty and why beauty is essential in our projects and the different building blocks that we want to see in everything that we get to develop around here.
And some things that we're going to try that we've never tried before in trying to get there, like a founders group, and lots of things like that. So
it's going to be fun. The future is bright. Hey, thanks again for tuning in to the Polias podcast. We hope that somehow, some way, your day was made just a little bit brighter by the content that you just heard. And we hope that you have an incredible rest of your day. We'll see you next time.